An electric vehicle finally gets 520 miles on a charge, but it is going to cost you. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. Find us on Wednesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. East here on YouTube or Facebook Live. And of course, everything's available at focusgroupradio.com, including our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned. We would like you to subscribe, like, and rate both of those. And we welcome you, and we're glad you're spending some time with us. We broke a rule before going on the air. We used to do this all the time in the studio. Tim and I would come in, and we'd start telling stories and laughing and cracking each other up. And this would go on for like 5 or 10 minutes. Then the mics would go on, and our producer would say, well, what you just did is the show.
Well, a lot of it you can't say.
A lot of it you can't say on the air. Yeah, so we were just talking about Tim's managing of his new position as the commish down in Rehoboth. And I said to him, you know, he spent more time in one meeting in one day than I've spent in probably 2 months or 3 months that I would put into my co-op board. So they're getting their money's worth out of you, Mr. Bennett.
Yeah, I want to hope it was unusual, which I think it was, because I watched a lot of these meetings prior to deciding to get involved. I think yesterday may have been unusual. Mm-hmm. I hope.
Well, was it the first time everybody was officially meeting after the... I mean, you all had...
No,
okay.
But there were some other bigger issues that were on the table. So
bigger issues.
Then they went into executive session, which went even longer.
Executive session. This sounds like student government. You know, in fact, weren't you president of the student body?
I was, but that was,
And for all our listeners, Tim had a side hustle that, boy, some of our teacher advisors, they would scold us, but they would laugh in the teacher's lounge. Didn't you rent out that student body room for nefarious?
Don't pretend you're so innocent. You had a key.
I did have.
You had all the benefit without. You were like Prince Harry. You had all the benefit without the responsibility. You had the key. You had access. You didn't have any of the responsibility. You're like Harry, Prince Harry. I had that damn room. Everybody asked for the key. I think Larson. People used to go in there and have sex, didn't they? In that
yes.
student government room.
Yes, they
we had
did.
A student government office of all things. That all it was a place to just get away.
And we know Yearbook had their office too, right? I mean, that makes sense because they have to lay out the yearbook and stuff. But but this is in our brand new high school. The old one, I don't think student body had a room in the old high school, did it?
It'd be funny if you and I ever happened to be back there. And I wonder if we could go back to the high school and say we'd like to go back and see the student government room. I bet it's probably a closet. It actually probably. I don't even know what it. I'm sure it's still there.
Have you been by Pomperog lately? It is expanded, and I think isn't our old high school one of the top football teams in the state now for high schools?
Yeah, and it's also one of the top high schools in the country academically, apparently, as well. Who knew?
So every time I drive by, I don't really recognize it. When Tim and I met in high school, we actually, we started our first year. Was it first or second? Were we freshman and sophomore in the old building and then junior, senior?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so we met sophomore year in our old building, and they were building a new high school. And then we went to the new brand spanking new high school, and man, that thing felt like, I don't know, it was like huge compared to the old. Remember? And it was brand new. It had courtyards. The trees were barely up. Yeah. And then we, of course, we did continue our like nefarious little Ferris Bueller pranks at the new building. Sadly for the teachers, although my mom tells me that the student lounge or the teacher lounge was filled with laughter. Oh, guess what the guys did? And we were supposed to be the last best class, they claim.
I have no doubt. I often wonder. I tried looking her up. I wondered what happened to Bev Hawkshurst, because she was a social studies professor. She was a social studies teacher, but she also she was the person in charge of student government. When I think about it now, she had trouble with her eyes were always half closed. She's probably stoned. She was in her late 20s, I guess.
I don't know about that, but she did. We had a. I think we talked about this before. You can never ever talk about this. Well, now I guess, but There was a point where we had a couple of bomb scares called into the high school.
There was a rash of them.
And by the way, the school was in the middle of like a cornfield. And it was the least likely place you would ever have something like this happen back when we were there. And it would only happen on sunny days. And all the kids would bring their backgammon sets out. And Tim's like, I think we should start selling treats during the bomb scares. And sure enough, 2 days later, there's people selling Snickers and water.
Well, it was a way to make money for the student government.
She didn't complain.
Bev Hawkser says we need to raise money. She says, well, listen, we have all these bomb scares. Let's make, lemon out of lemonade. Or, let's make lemonade out of lemons. So we got a cooler. We went to Bizzuto's. Mr. Candido told us to go to Bizzuto's. Right. We went and bought, this was before big box, Costco and stuff. So we bought candy bars. We bought juices. And so we would sell candy during the bomb scares. So we would, and again, people, you can't do this. But so just again, to put it in perspective, the fire department was a good 20 minutes away or
volunteer,
more. It was all volunteer. Yeah. And these people would have to leave the lumber yard, the plumbing supply,
their office,
the grocery store, whatever. And they would have to drive to the fire department, get changed, get in the fire trucks, and then get on the highway. And then by the time they got, because the thing was at the edge of town, the high school, by the time they got there, it was a good 45 minutes or more. So the period was over. So it usually happened when there was a big exam that was going to happen. And the teachers all knew it was coming. Sunny day. I remember one time, I remember the teachers opening the door. The kids knew it was coming. They didn't even undo their books. The kids knew it was coming.
It was coming. Yeah, then the word went out that we had to can it. So there went the supply chain, the money chain for student government. Anyway,
we never called one in, though.
No, you and I never did. We might have been instrumental in influencing someone to do that because of an upcoming exam.
You suggest it, but you would never do it.
I would no. I would not be the one dialing that. Remember the phone booth. All right, without further ado, Mr. Bennett, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
I have a couple of quick hits here. I had trouble this week finding stories. I don't know if you did.
I did too, but I think we settled on 3 that are fun. I like what you picked, so let's go.
So I picked. I found this one. The headline is Detroit posthumously honors Franklin with post office naming. So Aretha Franklin, American icon, national treasure, as you know, unless you were unaware. Aretha Franklin died in 2018 of cancer at her home in Detroit. She's a Detroit native, stayed there her whole life, and lived there, called Detroit home, loved it. And she passed away, or died at 76, as I said, in Detroit. So she was obviously kept a lot of her contacts and a lot of friends in Detroit. So one of the representatives there, U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence, had decided to petition Congress she's a Michigan Democrat, longtime Postal Service worker. She had worked with Congress to get one of the post offices right outside of Detroit in the suburbs near where Aretha lived, named in honor of her. So it's the Aretha Franklin post office, which I think is kind of funny only because you always see those things named after Kennedy or Martin Luther King, or it's usually a politician or some sort of civil rights leader or something. I don't think I've ever seen one. Like, you don't see the Elvis Presley or the Michael Jackson post office, right?
Or the Elton John. Yeah. I think the fact that it's Aretha Franklin, and didn't Ben Franklin start the post office?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do like that kind of lineup there. We have this incredible musical talent, and it goes all the way back to your favorite founding fathers.
Yes. And they said that, ironically, I don't know if it's ironic, they said this legislation, which was signed by, of all people, President Donald Trump in January, sailed through Congress, according to U.S. Senator Gary Peters. He said, sometimes people wonder if Congress can ever come together, the Democratic senator said with laughter during the dedication ceremony last Monday. He said Congress can come together when it comes to standing up and recognizing this amazing person. It says the post office is located about 5 miles east of downtown Detroit, not far from a concert amphitheater on the Detroit River, also named for Franklin. It'll be known as the Aretha Franklin Post Office Building. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Get your forever stamps today.
I think when you go in there, they should, chain, chain, chain. Instead of chain, they could do chain, chain, chain.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be a bank, though. Anyway,
yeah. Still, I like this one. This was a good one,
respect.
and yeah, that could be
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of change, Venezuela, who is known for, by the way, I don't know if you know this, Venezuela, they're like the king of Miss Universe pageant winners. You know, they really have that down to a science. Things aren't going so well there, though. I'm surprised it hasn't collapsed.
Wait. They have it down to a science. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
And if you ever watch, and I know you don't, but if you ever watch,
We used to watch it all the time, and you're right.
Venezuela,
Beautiful women, yeah.
Yeah, they got it down, and they are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful contestants. They also do it for the men. The men seem to do well, too, in the Mr. Universe things. Anyway, there's a new currency with 6 fewer zeros, which debuted last Friday in Venezuela. The currency has been made nearly worthless by years of the world's worst inflation. Inflation last year was 5,200%.
Wow.
Sad situation there, of course, since they decided to become a socialist heaven. Under Hugo Chavez, and he was he was the one who apparently tampered with our voting machines, although he died many, many years ago. And
he was a forward thinker.
Yeah. So Venezuela, I'm surprised it hasn't collapsed. You know, they've the Russians and the Chinese have been all over Venezuela like dog shit or a cheap suit, and they're trying to put military in there, and they're trying to prop up the government. And there's another shadow government that's been elected that promises to be more democratic. But it's really a shame what's happened to Venezuela. I have a couple of friends that work in the pharmaceutical industry that said that it's just a basket case. It's really sad. But what's happened is they've also started using the dollar because their
primary currency?
Right, because their currency has become such a mess. So they said before the adjustment, the highest denomination was a $1 million Bolivar bill, which was worth a little less than a quarter. So if you think about it, so million with all those zeros. And they said the new currency tops out at 100 Bolivars, which is a little less than $25. So they said one of the issues of why they had to do this change was because of the bookkeeping calculations and ATMs and a lot of this data processing entry. The zeros, these machines just couldn't take all the zeros. So they had to lob off the zeros.
Oh my God. In other words, they were programmed to not manage that many decimal places, right?
Well, if you can imagine, you'd have a tough time there. Can you imagine, John? Give them 10 trillion euro. Give them 10 trillion bolivars, which is like $4. Give them 10 trillion bolivars for the tip.
You're describing, I remember when we were going back to high school in history class, and Bev Hawkshurst was the teacher, and she was talking about Weimar Germany before the brown shirts came to power, and we've seen this line before in many ways. You used to have to buy a pack of cigarettes with a wheelbarrow of currency. That sounds like this, right? You know?
That's exactly what this is. They said piles of money to get one, like a loaf of bread. They said so. They what they essentially did is 1,000,000 to 1 is what they moved it down to. So 1,000,000 bolivars now 1. But of course, it's made a problem with inflation. So somebody that said I used to be able to buy a 2-liter bottle of pop is for 8 million bolivars. Now it's going to cost me, whatever too, but it's still worthless because the currency has just collapsed. So now they're saying most places will only take more than 60% of the places now will just take U.S. dollars. And so they're saying the price of a dollar. Now, if you were going to buy dollar convert on the market is 500,000 bolivars.
Wow.
And it was previously it was 5,200,000.
I can't believe that currency is pegged so far off, not even a 1-to-1 thing. Like you go to London and the pound is worth like $1.25, right? Like I can see your brain can do that. This this is a weird one.
Yeah, it says the central bank does not publish inflation stats anymore, but the International Monetary Fund estimates that Venezuela's rate of inflation at the end of 2021 will be 5,500%.
5,000%?
It's the worst. Yeah, it's the worst in the world. They said ahead of the change, obviously banks now they said stores are obviously just now trying to put prices out in U.S. dollars because people just can't do the calculations anymore because it changes so much. They thought this might help sustain or it would help stop hyperinflation, but it hasn't. So I thought about this, and I thought, do you know how many places actually use the U.S. dollar as their official currency?
I think that a great many countries in North America, South America, do use our currency, right? Like I think Panama. Does Panama do that?
So Panama does. I'll give you the list here. So Ecuador does, Panama, El Salvador, Zimbabwe in
Okay.
Africa, Timor, Micronesia, the British Virgin Islands, and Turks and Caicos just started doing it as well. And they said quasi most of the Caribbean does.
Oh well,
So
you and I have traveled in the Caribbean, and we know that they do that. Yeah.
yeah, so that was kind of sad what's happening in Venezuela. It's kind of they become kind of the poster child for the U.S. versus China and Russia as to who's
The
going to
tug of
win
war.
out there.
Yeah. With 5,000% inflation, you're implying that you could go to the store one day and you're going to buy a can of beans that costs, let's just say $10. That means that same can a week or two later or a month later could be like triple or quadruple the price. And it could happen that quickly, right? So that's like sticker shock beyond belief. Well,
Yeah.
my caught my eye could not be any further from yours, and that's how it usually works. And you'll appreciate this one as I. So mine is that the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas, is now going to have a Hasbro action figure in the form of a stormtrooper, which is from Star Wars, created after him. So the Star Wars creator is getting the action figure treatment, and it's from, I think it's called the Black Line or the Black Series toy line. So it's a 6-inch figure, and it's of the bearded one, which is what many fans call our, the glorious leader of Star Wars, in classic original trilogy Stormtrooper armor, along with a removable helmet and blaster. Well, the removable helmet seems kind of essential to me, that if you want to show off your new toy and say, hey, it's George Lucas as a Stormtrooper. The 2022 release is timed to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Lucas's production company, Lucasfilm, which was formed shortly after Star Wars came out. And, Star Wars actually changed the whole merchandising game because Lucas famously won the rights to Star Wars merchandising, including every toy ever made, when negotiating his deal with 20th Century Fox for when he was going to make 1980's sequel to Star Wars, my actual favorite, The Empire Strikes Back. That deal alone allowed him to open Lucasfilm. It has funded everything ever since. Books, think of all the toys, merchandising, licensing, everything he owns the rights to, and he negotiated that pennies on the dollar back in the day because, you gave us a blockbuster. And at the time, Hollywood was like, merchandise, I don't know. So,
Sure thing.
yeah.
I guess he was involved in the cod piece.
No, that's
you're
actually
watching-
how
the video.
the costume
Huh?
looks. Yeah.
And why would somebody want this?
Oh,
Is this for the Uber fan? Like if I was just wandering the store, I would just think it was somebody in the like who would want this?
it would be. Here's the. I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but it's kind of like going to a store that sells religious paraphernalia and buying a statue of Jesus. And as I said, I don't mean to offend because people do that and they put them outside, or they have them on their mantles. But for many in our world, he's practically God because he came up with Star Wars and everything.
This is going to be a promo clip, people.
It is a good promo, yeah. So that thing, as I said, comes out in 2022. It's the what was it called again? There's this Hasbro has this line, the Black
Would you
Series.
want that?
No, I would not want it. I sometimes I fancifully say to myself, boy, I wouldn't mind getting an action figure or something. And then I do my granddad, the lesson from my granddad. Give it 24 hours. If you want it after that, buy. And usually the fever has broken and passed. Let's put it that way.
That's funny.
All right. So as many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we would love you to visit their site by going to ours, focusgroupradio.com, and clicking on the Deep Discount logo, which is Sharky the Shark. Arr! And this week, we have a 25th anniversary sale, and this one I had to kind of pause because it's the 25th anniversary of films that were released in 1996. Bum, 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 So without further ado, what did you pick for the sale?
I picked one of my favorite movies, and every time it's one of those that's whenever it's on, I'll stay or I'll watch, or if I see it, I want to watch it. It's Fargo on Blu-ray, and
Mm.
it came out originally, as you mentioned, 1996. It's been remastered and re-released. You can get it at deep discount. Came out again in 2014, and it's just I think, just a great movie about a car salesman who thinks he's going to be able to get his family beat up a little bit and collect a big insurance policy, but things obviously go quite wrong.
It is. I'm so glad you picked this. I just love the ending when Frances McDormand is driving along and it's a beautiful day and there's snow blowing everywhere and she's, oh, you did all this for a little bit of money. It's a terrific film. And so this is remastered and it's reissued, right?
Yeah, they said that she's pregnant. She said she wore bird seed. And
As
she
a,
had this
she had a
prosthetic
bag.
breast, but it was so cold up there in Minnesota that one of them froze and popped.
Oh my God.
So
So Dory's from the set.
what did you pick?
I picked a movie called Bottle Rocket, and Bottle Rocket is one of Wes Anderson's first films. If you're a fan of Wes Anderson, think Grand Budapest Hotel, The Royal Tenenbaums, then you will definitely want to see Bottle Rocket. And it also was co-written with Owen Wilson, who actually, Luke and Owen actually show up in a lot of his movies. So it's a charming, hilarious, affectionate look at the folly of dreamers, shot against radiant southwestern backdrops. And it's Wes Anderson. So if you're a fan, this is where some of it begins, and I urge you to check it out. And our new release this week is The Stand. Now, this is a Stephen King adaptation of a Stephen King book. And it's briefly, after a viral plague decimates 99% of the world's population, a few survivors felt themselves compelled for pilgrimages to either the Boulder compound of wise centenarian Mother Abigail, Whoopi Goldberg, or the Vegas stronghold of cruelly charismatic Randall Flagg, played by Alexander Skarsgård, who's coming out in a new movie soon, by the way, called Dune. There have been a couple of adaptations of The Stand. I have read nothing but good things about this one, and it's available on Blu-ray, and it's 8.5 hours, so it's probably about 8 episodes.
Wow.
So highly recommend it.
Wow, cool. So head over to focusgroupradio.com. Click on the deep discount logo, start shopping away. As John mentioned, it's their 25th anniversary sale, so there's movies that were released in 1996. I picked Fargo. John picked a movie called Bottle Rocket, and the new release this week is called The Stand. So again, it's our friends at Deep Discount. They've been unsinkable since 2001. We'll be right back after this quick break with some shop talk and a business birthday. Stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is all you need to know to learn all about us. So go and check it out, including our partner there, Deep Discount. I just had a delightful lunch, actually, with the gentleman who composed the music that we're using for our show, our show composer, Jeff.
What'd you have for lunch?
Jeff Cubetta. Tim, did I tell you where we went? I don't know if I remember telling you about this. It was the Croton.
No.
Remember the Croton?
Oh, Croton on the Hudson?
The Croton restaurant. And guess what I had?
You didn't have the Cobb salad.
I had the
did you?
Cobb salad. Yeah, they no longer have that brownie dessert that used to. So I'm talking about a restaurant that's here in New York on I think it was 40th and 6th Avenue. We would finish up at the studio where Sirius is up near Radio City Music Hall on 6th Avenue, and if the day was okay, it was easier for us to walk down to Penn Station for Tim to get his train to Philadelphia and mine to get mine upstate. And we found this restaurant one day called the Croton, and we began going. The waiter always knew us. He has, I think he probably has a couple pairs of socks now, right? He earns some
Or
socks.
at least, yeah.
And then Tim one day discovers this dessert on the menu. So we have Cobb salads all the time, and then Tim finds this dessert, and it was like a walnut brownie something. Does that ring a bell with that vanilla ice
Yeah, it
cream
was
on
a
top?
hot walnut brownie with
Vanilla
vanilla
ice cream, yeah,
cream.
a la mode or something. Excuse me. That is no longer on the menu. It's under new management, as they say. So if you walk in, it will look the same-ish, but they got rid of that elevated area we used to eat at, and it's a little more bar-ish looking. And the menu's very clean, but they kept that Cobb salad. And the waitress said, that when the new owners came in, that was like top of their list. And then at the end of the lunch, the waitress and the bus boy came out with a dessert and a candle in it because it was the day before my birthday, and the two of them start singing, and they look around to try to get other people to sing, and no one's singing, so I have to sing for my own birthday.
But it was Yorkers.
There was their new signature dessert. It was this waffle that they make on the premises, like one of those Belgian waffles, on a bed of like some kind of vanilla cream or something, and then there's ice cream on top of that and whipped cream, and it's got chocolate on it. I said to Jeff, this is just as good almost as our brownie treat we used to have so many years ago at the Croton. Where are we going, Nash, for lunch today? It was either Croton or the Pan Quotidian, right?
Pan Quotidian, but that would be busy sometimes, overly crowded with the Frenchies.
Yeah.
And they're having their 2 soft-boiled eggs that were kind of runny. You'd always
Remember
watch La Femme Fatale, having that with the daughter.
Yeah,
it was there
tick, 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 tick. They'd tap the
NYU.
egg. Yeah, tick, 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 tick. And then you'd be like, ooh.
So it's interesting. So how much was the Cobb salad?
I thought it was like about $14.
Okay, so still pretty good. And it tasted the same. Good chicken. It was one of the better Cobb salads we had in New York.
Tim, it's the Cobb salad. And next time you're here, if you're able to have lunch or something, I think it might actually be worth going to the Crow. And I know it sounds it's like this restaurant you walk right by it. It's not the kind
I know you and I are going to be going to the TikTok soon. I'm going to be making my first trip to New York shortly, and after 3 years or 2 years or whatever it is, we've not been up there. And I don't know what I'm going to get.
Well, I will not get scrambled eggs.
Is that where we're going? Are we going to the TikTok?
We could go to TikTok, yeah, or I could find something else. That area is a little, that was always a little rough patch over that part of town. It's gotten rougher.
We'll have to decide. We'll have to talk offline.
I'll leave it at that. All right, so Mr. Bennett, what is our business birthday today?
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So John thinks we may have celebrated his birthday before. John has a better memory than me, so we probably did. I don't remember. But I didn't see him in our archive. But Lonnie George Johnson, born October 6th, 1949. He celebrates his 72nd birthday today. He's an American inventor, aerospace engineer, and entrepreneur. He worked for the U.S. Air Force. He also had a 12-year stint at NASA. He also worked in the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He was born in Mobile, Alabama. His father explained to him, very early age, the basic principles of electricity. He said his father said he was always a little tinkerer as a kid, and he was nicknamed the professor in the neighborhood. He said he once tore up his sister's doll to see what made the eyes close. Sounds like you.
Yeah, and then didn't put it back together. Okay.
He also tried to cook up rocket fuel in the saucepan and almost burned the house down. They said as a teenager, he attended the Williamson High School, which was an all-black school in Mobile. And in 1968, he represented his high school at a science fair in Alabama, where he was the only black student attending the fair. And this was at a time when African Americans had very little presence in science. He presented a robot he had created named Linux, L-I-N-E-X. And he ended up taking home the first place prize. The robot was powered by compressed air. So you'll find out that this compressed air thing in the future had done him well. He ended up graduating from Tuskegee University. He has a PhD in nuclear engineering.
Hey, Tim, where is Tuskegee? Is that in Oklahoma? Do I want to say Oklahoma or?
I believe it's Alabama.
Alabama. You're right. You're absolutely right. Because there's a team. Yeah, all right.
And he then went to the U.S. Air Force, or he worked for the U.S. Air Force, and he worked on the stealth bomber program. And he also worked on a variety of projects, including the Air Force Mission Lab, which developed nuclear power source for the Galileo mission to Jupiter. We've gone by Jupiter, haven't we? Flown by that
numerous times. Yeah, it's
what do we say?
Well, it's a lot to see actually, and It's one of the biggest planets in the solar system, probably responsible for life on Earth because it's so big it captures meteors and comets and bad things in its gravity well, and it doesn't let it get into the inner system. But now I'm wonking out, so my apologies. Continue.
Really?
Well,
Jupiter's responsible for life on Earth?
Well, because of its enormous size and the gravity pool, a lot of things fell into its orbit, and things collide with that planet, and they don't collide with ours. So, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Hey, everybody, what is our theme, Tim? Listen, laugh, and learn. Today we learned.
You learned something. I learned something.
You bring it up at the next council meeting.
You're alive. Isn't Jupiter just a big rock?
No,
is that a rock one, or is that a gas planet?
Gas giant.
Gas giant. Tears for Fears sang about that. They won a big award recently. Several weapons-related programs he was also involved with as well. And the Saturn Orbiter probe mission. He also worked on the stealth bomber program. So very, very involved. But his biggest, most notable project was he invented the Super Soaker water gun, which was one of the world's best-selling toys ever. He also invented the Nerf gun, which had those pneumatic launchers. So the compressed air, and it would shoot those long kind of pellets, those like...
The little Nerf, like torpedo things, yeah. Foam, right. I think.
So they said he conceived the idea when he was working for the Air Force, and he initially called this thing the Power Drencher. And it first appeared in toy shops in 1990. He eventually got a trademark name for it, had some tweaks for it, and it sold somewhere between, depending upon the model, between $10 and $60. And it generated, up until 1991, about $200 million in sales. And he made a deal with Laramie Corporation, which then became a subsidiary of Hasbro in 1995. And then he worked with Nerf, and then he got a patent. And these companies kind of changed hands with this thing. But he decided, after he would get royalty checks, but he realized in 2013 that he'd been way underpaid, if you can imagine. So he ended up having to sue Hasbro. Do you want to guess how much he sued for?
I'm going to put the number at like $140 million.
Well, you're in Venezuela numbers now, because you're double. But half. But he ended up getting, it probably could have been that. So they said the toy to date has had sales close to $1 billion.
Wow.
So he was awarded royalties of $73 million from the judge. They said, in fact, he was not compensated correctly. So he ended up taking that money and ended up starting his own company called Johnson Research and Development Company, which he works on a number of different projects now. But he holds over 250 patents, which most of them are involved, around these toys that he did. And he's had a number of different medals of achievements and awards. He's also, the Super Soaker was inducted into the National Toy Hall of Fame, one of the top 10 selling toys of all time. I never had a Super Soaker. Did you?
No.
We were a little too old.
Yeah, in fact, that's when they came out. We were like, what do the kids got these days? And what's that thing with the tank? And yeah, the kids love them. I mean, adults do too, frankly.
Yeah, he's right now working on something where he's trying to take green energy, and make it more affordable. So they're trying to transform heat into electricity, and to make it more affordable in terms of green energy. And this company that he's working with now, and connection with Tulane University. So he's working on a number of different projects.
Still busy at 72.
And he says he's part of a small group of African-American inventors whose work accounts for 6% of all U.S. patent applications.
It's amazing.
He's married to Linda Moore. They have 4 children. They live in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's amazing.
Happy birthday, Lonnie Johnson.
Happy 72nd. Let's hope he makes it to 100 and he gets a couple more patents under his belt, right?
I can't imagine.
I love the fact that he has contributed to the space program and aerospace, and of course, kids' delights with the toys. Picking up on the business birthday and what he has been working on, our business birthday character. Energy efficiency is a huge one, and one of our shop talk today is an article that caught my eye. It's we're going to talk about it, but the broader implications of this entire move towards electric vehicles is something that Tim and I have been actually puzzled, intrigued, and fascinated by for a number of years, because we both come come from the car industry. Tim was embedded like a tick in the industry, right? I mean, you know how difficult it is for manufacturing to actually make a car, right?
Yep.
Let alone worrying about the power plant. And then we've watched this whole rise of EV. So at the start of the show, I teased the headline of the article, which was this electric car can go 520 miles on a charge. But then the CEO of that company, Lucid, said that's not really the most important part of it. So recently, Lucid, a car company, an electric car company out of California, got the EPA rating of 520 miles for their Air Dream Edition vehicle. And before you want to go out there and put the credit card down and get something that gets 520 miles, which exceeds, in some cases, a gas car, the vehicle will cost you $169,000. And this is the issue here, right, Tim? It's, you can do it, but you better have deep pockets. And in order for this to actually take off, electric vehicles in general, they need to be cheaper, they need to be more flexible, and we need infrastructure. We're going to talk about all that. So what did you think of this? The article goes into what the most important thing is, which is Lucid would like to make the next Model T on some level. And, the Model T was Henry Ford's gift to the masses. It's a mass-produced automobile that was inexpensive. He would like to do the same thing with the electric vehicle.
Well, I read this and I laughed when you said it was going to cost you, because about 20 years ago, I took a group of Japanese executives and engineers up to LL Bean up in Freeport, Maine. And we had stopped at a dealer, and they were all mad at Subaru for not having an electric car, hybrid car at the time. They wanted, the
hybrid,
gas electric. And we're visiting with a dealer, and they start hammering the Japanese that they want one of these hybrid cars. And the Japanese engineer says, "Oh, we have one." And I even perked up. I thought, wow. So he says, "Yes, we have one. How many would you like?" So the dealer, "I'll take all you have." And the Japanese engineer looks at him and goes, $1 million each.
Did he really?
Yeah.
$1 million each. Okay.
Oh my God, the dealer was so pissed, stormed away. But that was the issue. They couldn't. The technology was so expensive, and for a small manufacturer to try to get economies of scale, and that's where what's happened with a lot of these batteries, in terms of cost and trying to get the efficiencies down to make them affordable, is one of the issues. You and I, when we had driven the electric car for Volkswagen, you and I went to what we thought was the land of milk and honey out in California to
in
drive
terms
this
of
thing.
Charging. Ooh, boy,
we had to go back to the dealer every night, because even in the parking structures we would go to, they wouldn't take our credit cards because you had to have signed up to be a member or something, or the chargers didn't fit the car. It would be like having an Apple phone, right? And you and I would go somewhere to charge it, and we didn't have the right charger.
Wrong cable. Yeah.
So that's, I think, one of the impediments to this. To this thing.
The whole electric vehicle equation comes down to the same principles that drive efficiency in an internal combustion engine. Weight versus the weight of the vehicle versus the weight of the fuel that's moving it, and of course passengers and everything else. So for all the, I once watched a woman who was the if you could believe this, there was there's a gasoline lobby, and it's billed as a product of the petroleum industry, gas, right? And she actually was giving a speech one day, and she said that gasoline is like the nirvana, because a gallon of gas can generate a huge amount of watts, meaning a huge amount of power, and it's portable, and we're all familiar with it. But as Tim was just mentioning with battery packs, these things are expensive, they're dense, and they're heavy. And the more you put in to get the higher range, the more you have to either lighten up the car, shrink the compartment inside, for you and the passenger, and change to new materials like carbon fiber-based stuff or plastics. So it's a strange game, and I think that, and then you have infrastructure, right? So if you're a Tesla driver and you are planning to go from, let's say, where Tim is down in Rehoboth up to, let's say, Boston. Tim, I'm guessing you have to do 2 pullovers for 2 charges. Does that sound about right?
Well, yeah, it's somebody actually did that with a Tesla. They drove from Boston to DC, and they had to stop a couple times. And if it's dead of summer, which people don't, if it's really hot or really cold, the charge is even more because you're going to be expending energy for either air conditioning or heat. So if you need to heat the car inside or you need to use the air conditioner, you're going to use more battery power. And if you have one person in the car or three people in the car will be heavier. So again, you're going to use more battery power. If you have luggage, its car will be heavier, so you use more battery power. So yeah, the person who wrote the article, I think they had to stop a couple of times and charge. And in some cases, if you stop for lunch and you could charge it up a quick charge, it's one thing. But I've thought about this a lot. I want to get an electric car for my next car, but I also don't want to, if I was driving to Ohio, for instance, I don't want to stop somewhere for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to be able to, like you would with a gas car, you pull over, you put gas in, you run to the restroom, and you're back on the road in 10 minutes, right?
It literally is that, yeah.
And that's
you know,
the
by the
issue
way,
with some of these electric cars is you're not going to pull over and get, unless they have a speedy charge.
yeah, there are fast charging systems, but again, it's still going to take you a little bit of time. It's going to take more time than filling the gas tank. And the CEO of this company, of Lucid, let me get his name here, Peter Rawlinson, sorry. He's aiming on this Model T thing. So they want to, I think when you look at this car that's $169,000, they're looking at this as kind of the, you know, I almost want to call it a, you know, you guys used to show these things at the auto, like a test vehicle or like a dream car, like that. They're never going to be mass produced. You know, I forget the name of those things, but he's aiming for, on his T21 project, which is like the Model T for 2021, he's aiming for a battery pack that weighs about 275 pounds, and one that's compact would give the car about 150-mile range. So let's say you're going to get your next car is going to be electric. Tim, for you, 150 is fine because the kind of driving you would do in your area during the week, you'd probably never even hit 150, right?
Right, and I could drive to Philadelphia on that. But if I was going to go see you, I would have to stop in Philadelphia and charge it up and then figure it out. You know, the other thing about these batteries, I often wonder, is it like a computer or like your cell phone? Eventually the batteries start to lose their life as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
They don't, they don't charge. And that's the other issue that I'm not so sure that we've, you know, the technology or what is it? It's we get ahead of technology, or technology gets ahead of the practicality or the use of them. We're not sure how these are going to act long term. And they want to save the environment, but how do you dispose of these batteries?
Well, and let's just take a quick side trip down there. Lithium-ion batteries are not. This is what we're talking about. This is the current state of battery technology, and lithium is a rare earth metal, and its mining comes at a cost to the environment. So you're doing that, and then, as Tim just said, the consequences of a new technology being, you know, just run with before we've adapted to it. I've read numerous articles about first responders and fire departments having to deal with cars that suddenly catch on fire, and they don't necessarily know how to deal with a hazard like a lithium-ion battery. You know, they've had years.
Because the jaws of life are metal, right?
Mm-hmm. And it could cause all kind of problems, and so they're puzzling about what this all means. And then Tim and I did some branding work for a company recently whose former CEO is now actually at a company that's doing infrastructure. And this was the other big thing that you and I have talked about a great deal is it all has to come together at the same time. If you want more electric cars on the road, you got to have more quote unquote gas stations for lack of electric charging stations. And we all have to there has to be a standard. Is it going to be fast? Is it going to be slow? Is it going to be a certain plug that every single car has, right? I mean, it's, and you know, auto, like I do automakers get together and actually say, here's the plug unit we're going to use in every electric vehicle moving forward. Does that ever happen? Has that happened?
Well, it'd be like, I guess, like a starter. I don't know, because you want it to be agnostic, right?
Standardized, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, you would hope so, because when you go get fuel, you want to make sure that the nozzle fits in all the cars, right? So maybe that's similar. I'm with you on that. The infrastructure is important. The other issue is there's, something like, thousands of automobile dealerships across the country. And a lot of them survive. Dealers don't make money on new cars. You make a little bit, but they make money on fixed operations, which is the servicing of the cars when you buy them. So it's not only when you need new tires or something, but it's really the oil changes, the spark plugs, the fan belts, all the 10,000-mile checkup, 30. Well, you don't need to do that with an electric car. So what do you do with all of these automobile manufacturers that have these dealerships that have survived on the combustion engines in terms of servicing them to stay in business? Do they just all go away? And that's a huge change and a huge.
It's enormous because dealers, they've built their entire businesses. Like upstate, we have a lot of dealers who have expanded recently to just manage servicing trucks, pickup trucks.
Right.
So
and the other huge thing that nobody's addressing in any of this, which I don't quite understand. And again, I want to get an electric car, and I know that there's a pickup truck company coming called Rivian, and the Ford F-150 is coming, but car companies are not making, and a lot of them are eliminating sedans.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of sedans. People don't want sedans.
The market wants.
They're even getting rid of station wagons. So, which they've been doing for years. But the fact that everybody's getting rid of sedans, that all these electric cars, or a lot of them that are coming, are sedans.
Mm-hmm.
So if people don't want sedans, why are they making sedans?
It's the only weight to power ratio that works for them. But if the market says I want an SUV, good point.
Yeah, so I don't know why they're
product mismatch, right? Product planning, product mismatch, consumer demand. It's an interesting flux moment for the industry, I think.
Well, and you and I are friends with a number of folks in research, and a lot of companies are discussing whether, and I know Ford has just decided, and a few other companies are deciding whether they're going to drop their sedan portfolios, and they're going to do that. But then you're saying, well, then these electric companies are coming in with sedans. So there's a disconnect there to me, that if the consumer doesn't want sedans, why are you making them in electric cars?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. So what happens. Would you buy an electric car?
I would buy this one if it were $35,000 or $32,000 or $26,000.
Well, there's a showroom in Manhattan, by the way,
for Lucid. I might check it out, but I like the 520. I like 520 miles on a charge. Guy
from Audi's the marketing guy, Jeff Curry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And the guy that started Lucid used to be at Tesla, so they all move around. Anyway.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. We hope you learned something today. I did. Jupiter, gas giant, keeping things away from Earth. Be sure to catch our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, every Tuesday. Go to focusgroupradio.com. You'll find all of our media housed there. Thanks to our friends at Deep Discount. There's a 25th anniversary sale going on there. Be sure to head over there and shop, and we'll see you next week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.